Greetings, everyone. This is Justice Technology Professionals, and wanted to really maybe dive in a little bit on this episode, somewhat about different and various science, supposed scientific evidence and analysis that are presented at trial by the prosecution that sometimes isn't as accurate or as scientific as they really want the jurors to believe. And I was watching a show, which I honestly recommend everybody to give it a watch. It's on Netflix. It's called Exhibit A. And there was one quote in the show that actually really stuck out to me. And I'm just gonna play that because it's powerful and it makes a lot of sense, and you can really relate to it.
If you have a science that is misunderstood, that science becomes like magic. And that's what makes it very, very dangerous.
I think that says a lot. I mean, when you think about it, and I think that's the picture that the prosecutors try to paint sometimes to the jurors. They know that the jurors don't understand it, and they do try to make the science like a magic. And by not understanding it, that's almost what it is. It's so out there, and they don't have a grasp of how it works. And to them, it's appears to be magic. It appears to be factual, and it appears to be a case where you can't argue it, you can't dispute it. The way they're explaining it, that's how it goes. And case closed. That's it. And it is very, very dangerous to put it that way. And the problem that I notice that happens far too often, for some reason, defense attorneys or strategists that are on the team decide to not focus on looking at the issues at hand and how they could counteract it. So if the other side of the prosecution is bringing in a DNA expert, blood spatter expert, Godiva dog expert, touch DNA, video forensics, there's always going to be an expert on the other side of that. Cell site expert. There's always going to be an expert on the other side of that. There's always going to be an expert that could tell you what kind of things that could happen to taint those studies, to taint those results. And that's what's so important for jurors to understand. They can't just see one side of these things. They can't just see one side of how DNA transfer works. They can't just see one side of how cell site technology works. They have to have a good grasp of the science behind it and how the science can be flawed and how the science can be errored and how those presenting it or collecting it could make errors, and how things could be contaminated, how videos, it may not always be the way it appears. You may see something on a video and there's a lot more to it. I mean, I don't want to keep going back to the show and just keep talking about this show, Exhibit A, but they have 4 segments on it. They have video forensics, they have blood splatter, cadaver dogs, and touch DNA. And they actually go through each segment and they show how all these different supposed sciences that are factual, and the government gives off the impression that they are factual and there's no denying it. That's not the case. There's a lot of things that could happen that could change the results. There's a lot of outside elements. There's a lot of mishandling. There's a lot of different ways of reading the results that could truly impact that. And when the defense fails to exploit that or to question that or to bring in their own rebuttal expert, you have to bring somebody else in on the other side to explain that. You can't just build your defense on you crossing an expert and trying to exploit holes. Me personally, I just don't think it works. I just don't think it's powerful. I try to take myself out of being on the defense side, and if I'm sitting in the jury, I would wanna hear the other side. I would want to hear the legitimate reasons why these things can be flawed.